In the year 1892, deep in the misty hills of Somerset, England, stood the crumbling silhouette of Hawthorne Manor, a grand estate wrapped in ivy, shadow, and whispers. To those who lived nearby, it was not merely a house. It was a warning. For 3 centuries, the Hawthorne family had lived and died under a curse that no priest nor doctor could ever undo. It was said that every firstborn Hawthorne would perish before the age of 25. Claimed by the same unseen hand that began its work long ago, the villagers told the story in hushed tones, by firelight. It began in 1592, they'd say, when Lord Alaric Hawthorne accused a midwife of witchcraft. He took her land, her life, and burned her at the stake. With her dying breath, she cursed his bloodline. Your pride shall be your grave, and your name shall rot before the earth takes you. Since that night, the curse never faltered. Sons, daughters, heirs, all taken young. Paintings of youthful faces hung in the manor halls, their eyes too alive, their smiles too knowing. Now, in 1892, Lady Eleanor Hawthorne was the last of her family, the last to inherit the curse. She was just 23. Eleanor was no ordinary heiress. Her beauty carried sadness in its reflection. Her eyes, grey as the morning fog, seemed to know what fate awaited her. She had watched her father die at 24, her brother at 23, and her mother lose her mind to grief. The curse had left her alone, save for a few loyal servants and the echoing corridors of her haunted home. Each night, the clocks of Hawthorne Manor stopped at midnight, the exact moment her brother had died. No matter how many times she repaired them, they always froze again. Eleanor often wandered through the gardens, where life still bloomed despite the decay of the house. There, surrounded by roses and wild ivy, she felt the faintest touch of peace, and something else, something she couldn't name. In those gardens worked Thomas Greaves, the gardener's son, young, quiet, and humble. His hands knew the soil, his voice was gentle, and his presence seemed to calm even the restless winds. When he looked at her, it wasn't as a lady of the manor, but as a woman. She told herself it was nothing, yet each passing day she found excuses to linger, to ask about the flowers, the weather, the color of the earth. And in his simple words, she felt something strange, hope. Still, she could not forget the weight of her blood. The curse pulsed through every breath she took, and though she smiled politely when villagers greeted her, she saw their pity, their certainty that she too would not live to see 25. But one stormy night, while lightning flashed across the manor walls, Eleanor made a decision that would defy her ancestors, the curse and society itself. If her blood was cursed, perhaps new blood could save it. Music swells, thunder crackles in the distance. That night marked the beginning of a secret that would shock England's nobility and awaken something dark beneath the soil of Hawthorne Manor. If you think love can truly break a curse, wait until you hear what Lady Eleanor does next. Stay tuned for The Heirless Lady. The scandal of the Hawthorne curse had long become legend, a tale mothers whispered to frighten their children into obedience. But for Lady Eleanor Hawthorne, it wasn't a story. It was a shadow she woke up to each morning, and one that followed her into her dreams each night. After her brother's death, the manor felt emptier than ever. The echo of footsteps in the corridors seemed to mock her solitude. Servants avoided her gaze, fearing that even speaking to the cursed lady might bring misfortune. Outside, however, life continued. The gardens bloomed in defiance of the gloom. Roses climbed the cracked stone walls, ivy crept into windows, and sunlight sometimes pierced the fog like an old friend trying to find her. It was there, among the flowers, that Thomas Greaves, the gardener's son, worked each day. Thomas was not like the nobleman who had once courted her. He spoke little, but his words carried a quiet sincerity. His hands were rough from work, his clothes simple, but his smile, rare and genuine, felt like a promise of peace in a life ruled by fear. Eleanor found herself drawn to him without understanding why. Perhaps it was his calmness in a world that terrified her. Or perhaps it was the way he treated her not as a fragile heiress, but as a human being. She would often walk through the gardens under the pretense of checking the roses. though her true reason was much more dangerous. Sometimes they spoke of trivial things, the rain, the soil, the changing colors of autumn. But beneath those simple exchanges was something unspoken, a forbidden affection, growing like a vine between them. One morning, while the fog still clung to the ground, Thomas caught her hand as she nearly slipped on the wet stones. For a brief moment their eyes met, her gloved fingers in his calloused palm. A spark passed between them, fragile and frightening. She pulled away, her heart hammering against her ribs. From that day the world seemed to shift. Eleanor began to smile again, though she did not know why. The servants whispered about their closeness, their voices thick with judgment. In the grand halls of the Ton, rumours spread like wildfire. Lady Hawthorne spends her mornings with a gardener's son. Has the curse driven her mad? Eleanor ignored them. For the first time she felt alive. Still, deep down, she knew time was against her. Her 24th birthday was approaching, the same age her father had died, the same year the curse had claimed her brother. Fear tightened around her heart like iron bands. One evening, as a storm gathered over the hills, Eleanor sat by the fire, staring at the flicker of the flames. A sudden gust blew open the window, scattering her papers. Among them was an old letter from her mother, a letter she had never dared to read. With trembling hands she unfolded it. The ink had faded, but the words were still legible. My dearest Eleanor, should you live past your 23rd year, seek out the woman in the woods, Agnes Blythe. She alone knows the truth of our curse. Eleanor's breath caught. Agnes Blythe, the name echoed in her memory. A midwife's descendant, a woman said to possess the old knowledge. The villagers called her the Witch of Ashcombe. That night, as thunder rolled and rain lashed the windows, Eleanor made her decision. She would find the witch. She would uncover the truth buried beneath 3 centuries of Hawthorne secrets, and if there was even a chance to break the curse, she would take it. Her fate, her love, and the future of her bloodline were about to intertwine with something far darker than she could imagine. Do you think the witch will help Eleanor break the curse, or bind her to it forever? If you're enjoying Lady Eleanor's dark tale, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the next The Witch's Warning. The night was cold and merciless when Lady Eleanor Hawthorne left the safety of her manor and ventured into the woods of Ashcombe Hollow. Her cloak billowed in the wind as rain fell in sharp, stinging drops. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating twisted branches that reached out like skeletal hands. She had not told anyone where she was going, not even Thomas. The letter from her late mother burned in her pocket, guiding her through the storm. There was only one thought in her mind: find Agnes Blythe and end the curse. It was said that Agnes lived where the road ended and the forest began, in a cottage built from the bones of old trees and the memories of the damned. Villagers spoke her name in fear, claiming she could heal the body or steal the soul. When Eleanor reached the edge of the woods, she saw the faint light of a fire glowing through the mist. The air smelled of herbs and smoke. Her heart pounded as she stepped forward. The door creaked open before she could knock. Inside stood Agnes Blythe, a frail woman with silver hair and eyes like pale glass. She didn't seem surprised to see Eleanor. "The last Hawthorne," Agnes whispered, her voice low and rough. "I've been waiting for you." Eleanor froze. "You know who I am?" Agnes nodded slowly. "I know your blood, and the curse that stains it." She gestured for Eleanor to sit by the fire. 300 years ago, your ancestor stole from one who served the earth. He took her land, her power, her child. She died with hatred on her tongue, and that hatred took root in your bloodline. Eleanor swallowed hard. "Then tell me how to end it." The witch stirred something bubbling in her pot. The liquid shimmered green, smelling faintly of metal and moss. "Curses are not broken," she said softly. "They are balanced." Eleanor frowned. "Balanced?" Agnes turned to face her fully. "Your blood is heavy with pride and corruption. To cleanse it, you must join it with something pure, something untouched by greed or ambition. The blood of the earth." The words struck Eleanor like thunder. She thought instantly of Thomas, his simple kindness, his honest heart, his connection to the soil and to life itself. Agnes seemed to sense her thoughts. "Be warned, child," she said, leaning close. "To alter the curse is to invite its wrath. The price may not be yours to pay." Lightning flared outside, illuminating Eleanor's pale face. Her heart trembled, torn between reason and desperation. "I will do whatever it takes," she whispered. "I will not let my family's sins damn another generation." The witch smiled sadly, revealing teeth like shards of ivory. "Then your path is set, Lady Hawthorne. May love be your savoir, or your ruin." As Eleanor turned to leave, the old woman called out one final warning. "Remember this. Every curse hungers for balance. When you feed it, it always takes something in return." Eleanor now knows how to cleanse her cursed blood, but the price will be steep. If you're enjoying this Gothic tale, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for the next haunting the Secret Union. The days that followed her visit to Agnes Blythe passed like a fevered dream. Lady Eleanor Hawthorne could not shake the witch's words. To cleanse your blood, it must unite with the pure blood of the earth. Each time she walked through the manor gardens, she found her eyes drifting to Thomas Greaves, the gardener's son. His presence steadied her, his hands buried in the soil, his face calm beneath the sun. He was everything the Hawthornes were not, simple, honest, untainted by greed or legacy. She began to understand what the witch had meant. Thomas was the key, though she dared not say it aloud. One golden afternoon, as the mist lifted from the hills, Eleanor approached him. The scent of roses filled the air. "Thomas," she said softly, "do you believe in curses?" He looked up from his work, surprised. "My mother used to say we make our own curses, my lady, with our choices and the things we refuse to let go of." Eleanor smiled faintly. "Then perhaps I've made mine by being born." He wiped his hands and met her eyes, a forbidden gaze that lasted too long. "Perhaps," he said gently, "you can unmake it too." That was the moment her fate sealed itself. Over the next few weeks, their meetings grew more frequent, secret walks in the twilight gardens, whispered words among the roses. The line between duty and desire blurred until there was no line at all. The Ton, the high society of London, would never have forgiven such a scandal. An heiress of ancient blood marrying a gardener's son. It was unthinkable. But Eleanor's heart had chosen rebellion over fear, and so, on the night of the harvest moon, when the air shimmered with silver light, they met at the abandoned chapel that stood at the edge of the Hawthorne grounds. It was a ruin of stone and ivy, its roof half collapsed, its altar cracked by time. Inside only 2 candles burned. The old witch, Agnes Blythe, stood waiting, her presence solemn, her eyes reflecting the flicker of the flames. Eleanor wore no jewels, no crown, only a simple white gown that fluttered in the wind. Thomas, trembling, held her hands as the witch began to speak. "You come from 2 worlds," Agnes intoned. "Blood of stone and blood of soil. Pride and purity. If you wish to bind your fates, do so with truth, for false vows will call the curse to feast again." Thomas looked into Eleanor's eyes. "I have no lands, no title, no fortune," he said quietly, "but I give you my life, freely." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "And I, Lady Eleanor Hawthorne, give you my name and my heart. May love be our shield, and the earth our witness." As their hands joined, lightning flashed through the chapel's broken roof, illuminating their faces in a sudden blaze of white. The candles flickered wildly, and for a brief, breathless second, the winds outside went still. The air felt alive. The house on the hill, Hawthorne Manor itself, seemed to exhale, as though some ancient tension had eased. When the storm finally passed, the witch's voice broke the silence. "It is done. But remember, Lady Hawthorne, every curse demands a price. Pray that love is enough to pay it." Eleanor and Thomas left the chapel hand in hand, believing they had conquered fate. But in the quiet fields behind them, the earth stirred. Something unseen had awakened. Eleanor believes she's broken the curse through love, but the curse has only begun to hunger, the scandal and the silence. If you're drawn into Lady Eleanor's forbidden tale, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the next The Scandal in the Silence. The morning after their secret wedding, Lady Eleanor Hawthorne woke with sunlight spilling through the curtains of her chamber. And for the first time in her life, she felt peace. The shadows that had haunted the manor seemed softer, the air less heavy. Even the clocks, those relentless harbingers of doom, ticked steadily past midnight for the first time in years. She believed with all her heart that the curse had finally been broken. Down in the gardens, Thomas Greaves worked as he always had, but now, when his eyes met hers, there was a secret warmth between them, a hidden truth that no one else could see. In the solitude of their love, they were free, but peace is a fragile illusion in a world that thrives on scandal. It began with whispers among the servants, the way the lady spent too much time near the gardener, the way their gazes lingered. And then, as such things always do, the whispers slithered beyond the walls of Hawthorne Manor and found the eager ears of society. The ton, proud, vicious and hungry for gossip, turned its eyes upon her. Lady Hawthorne has married beneath herself, they sneered, to a man of dirt and sweat. The curse must have rotted her reason. Invitations to balls stopped arriving. Old friends refused her letters. The family's name, once a mark of prestige, became a grim joke murmured behind gloved hands. But Eleanor didn't care. She had Thomas, and soon after she had hope, for within a few months she learned she was carrying a child. She wrote in her diary that night by candlelight, "If this life within me survives, then I will know the curse is broken. Let the world hate me, I have love, and that is enough." The following weeks passed in quiet isolation. The villagers avoided the manor, fearing the wrath of whatever spirits haunted the Hawthorne line. Yet within those ivy-covered walls, laughter returned, gentle, fleeting, fragile. Thomas would play her music on an old lute he had restored, and Eleanor would hum softly, her hands resting on her growing belly. For the first time, the house felt alive. Still at night, strange things occurred. Doors creaked open by themselves. The fire dimmed without wind, and sometimes Eleanor swore she heard a voice whispering in the nursery, a woman's voice, low and sorrowful. Thomas told her it was just the wind, but deep down she wondered if the curse truly slept, or if it was merely waiting. One evening, as rain drummed against the windows, Thomas found Eleanor sitting by the fire, tears glistening in her eyes. "They mock us," she whispered. "They call me mad, a fallen lady." He knelt beside her, taking her trembling hands in his. "Let them," he said. "We have something they'll never understand, love that no curse can touch." She smiled through her tears and pressed her forehead to his. In that moment, the storm outside felt distant, powerless, yet somewhere deep beneath the manor, in the ancient crypts of the Hawthorne line, a faint rumble echoed. Like the earth itself remembering an old debt, the curse had not died. It was watching, and it was patient. Lady Eleanor believes love has freed her, but the curse is only sleeping, and when it wakes, it will demand a soul. If you're captivated by Lady Eleanor's haunting love story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the next The Child of Earth and Blood. The months passed, and Hawthorne Manor seemed for a fleeting moment to be alive again. The once decaying walls seemed to breathe with new energy, and the gardens, overgrown and wild, flourished under Thomas's careful hands. Lady Eleanor's heart swelled each time she felt the tiny life growing within her. She named her child before he was born in quiet prayers, William, after her father, whose memory haunted her halls. When he arrived, the house seemed to sigh, a gentle trembling exhale that whispered through the candlelit corridors. William was unlike any Hawthorne before him. His cry was strong, full of life. His skin was unmarked by the pale sickness that had claimed generations of heirs. Even the servants, wary and superstitious, could not deny it. The curse seemed broken. For the first time, Eleanor allowed herself to hope. She cradled him in the nursery, watching his tiny fingers curl around hers. marveling at the miracle she had prayed for. Yet the shadows never fully lifted. From the very first night, subtle oddities began to appear. Mirrors in the nursery would fog without reason, reflecting nothing but flickering darkness. Dogs would growl and retreat from the crib, hair raised along their spines. Occasionally, Eleanor would glimpse a movement in the corner of her eye, a fleeting shadow that disappeared when she turned to face it. She told herself these were her fears, amplified by years of loss. But Thomas began to notice changes too. At first, they were small, a pale tint to his skin, an unusual fatigue that no rest could cure. Nights when he slept, his body seemed to shiver as if the life itself were being drawn from him. Eleanor tried to console him, brushing her fingers across his face, whispering, "It is nothing, Thomas. Perhaps the stress of fatherhood, or the cold." But deep in her heart, Eleanor knew better. The child, her William, was thriving where others had failed. Strong, unblemished, untouched. And in that unnatural vitality, she began to suspect the truth. The curse had not been broken. It had shifted. She remembered the witch's words. Every curse hungers for balance. When you feed it, it always takes something in return. As William slept peacefully in his cradle, Eleanor studied Thomas, noting the pallor of his skin, the hollowness in his eyes. Fear clawed at her chest. The man she loved, the one whose blood had been promised to cleanse her own, was suffering. That night, she sat by the fire and wrote in her diary, trembling, "If love is the price, then it is his life that has been offered to the darkness. And I, foolish and proud, may have doomed the only soul who truly matters." She gazed at her sleeping child, whose tiny chest rose and fell with perfect rhythm. In his innocence, she saw hope. In Thomas's suffering, she saw the curse's hunger, and she knew the battle for her family's salvation had only just begun. Outside, the wind moaned through the manor, whispering secrets of the past and promises of the future. Hawthorne Manor had grown quiet again, but the darkness lingered, biding its time, and somewhere deep in the shadows, the ancient curse watched, waiting to claim what it was owed. William may be safe, but the curse has claimed its hidden price. Will Eleanor find a way to save Thomas, or will the darkness consume him? If you're captivated by this haunting tale, like, share, and subscribe to follow the next The Bargain Revealed. The days grew darker within Hawthorne Manor as Thomas's health waned. His once strong hands, capable of coaxing life from the stubborn earth, trembled. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and each breath seemed heavier than the last. Eleanor watched him with a horror she could not speak aloud. She had always known the curse demanded a price, but never had she imagined how personal that price could be. One evening, as a storm raged across the hills, Eleanor found Thomas slumped in the library, his eyes distant, lips pale. She knelt beside him, clutching his hands. "Thomas, speak to me, please." He smiled faintly, a ghost of the man he had once been. "Do not cry, Eleanor. You've given the child life. That is all that matters." Eleanor shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "No, Thomas, I cannot watch you fade while he thrives. The curse, it has taken you." Her voice trembled. She remembered the words of Agnes Blythe, the witch who had warned her of balance, of payment. Eleanor had always thought she understood, but now she realized she had only glimpsed part of the truth. In desperation, she sought the witch again. Agnes's cottage stood silent beneath the storm, the wind rattling the windows. Agnes opened the door without a word, her eyes piercing Eleanor with a cold understanding. "I know why you've come," the witch said, her voice low and knowing. "You've fed the curse with the man you love. That was the bargain from the beginning. Every curse demands a life for a life, and the blood of the soil paid its debt." Eleanor trembled. "Then Thomas is gone?" Agnes shook her head. "Not yet. The debt is due. He cannot escape what you set in motion. Your child lives because his father's blood has been offered. That is the nature of curses, Lady Eleanor. The balance must be kept." The truth crashed over Eleanor like a wave of ice. She had not broken the curse. She had only shifted its hunger, diverting it from her child to the man she loved most. She returned to the manor to find Thomas in the nursery, cradling their son in his arms, whispering a lullaby. Eleanor sank beside him, pressing her face to his shoulder. "I should have died," she whispered. "It should have been me, not you." Thomas shook his head weakly, a small, sad smile on his lips. "It is our son who must live. That is worth any price. Even mine." That night, as lightning cracked across the sky, Thomas passed quietly in Eleanor's arms, the manor itself seeming to shudder at his loss. The curse had taken its due, and the bloodline had survived, but the manor was forever changed. Shadows lingered where they had never been. Whispers floated along empty halls, and the echo of Thomas's sacrifice haunted every corner. Eleanor's heart was broken, yet her child slept peacefully. Untouched by the darkness that had claimed so much, Hawthorne Manor had been saved at a terrible, irreversible cost. The curse has claimed Thomas, but the story is not over. Will William inherit the shadows of Hawthorne Manor, or will the family line finally find peace? Udadun, if you're captivated by Lady Eleanor's tragic tale, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to follow the final haunting Eleanor's final diary. Years passed in Hawthorne Manor, and the manor itself seemed to breathe quietly once more. The halls, though still shadowed, were no longer alive with restless energy. The gardens flourished under Eleanor's care, and young William, the child of earth and blood, grew tall, healthy and strong. Yet even in their seeming peace, the echoes of Thomas's sacrifice lingered. Eleanor moved through the rooms like a ghost of her former self, her laughter rare, her smiles fleeting. She spent her days tending to her son, ensuring he would never know the suffering she had endured. But Eleanor knew the truth. The curse had not died. It had changed shape. It slept quietly within William, hiding its hunger beneath the guise of his vitality. In the quiet hours of night, she wrote tirelessly in her diary a record of love, loss, and the dark bargains that had shaped their lives. The pages were filled with trembling ink and desperate pleas. The curse has been diverted, not destroyed. Thomas paid with his life so that William could live. But the shadows linger, waiting. My child carries the weight of generations, and the manor itself whispers of what is yet to come. Eleanor watched William as he slept in the nursery, the candlelight flickering across his serene face. She could feel the pulse of the house beneath her feet. A rhythm that had once been a warning, now a quiet, steady heartbeat. Yet something about it unsettled her. One evening, Eleanor found herself drawn to the mirror in the nursery. Her own reflection stared back, pale and lined with grief, but something was wrong. Behind her reflection, a faint shadow moved, indistinct yet unmistakably watching. Eleanor's heart clenched. The curse, she realized, had not been destroyed. It had merely found a new vessel. Her final days were spent preparing for the inevitable. She filled her diary with instructions for William, warning him of the curse that coursed through his bloodline and the sacrifices that had saved him. In her last entry, Eleanor's handwriting trembled. If you are reading this, my dearest William, know that love alone cannot break the shadows. The curse is not vanquished. It sleeps within you, patient and watchful. Guard your heart and remember the cost of the blood that saved your life. I pray that one day you will find peace where I could not. When Eleanor was found, her body lay peacefully at her desk, the diary open beside her. No mark of illness, no sign of struggle, only the quiet presence of a woman who had lived and loved under the weight of a family's centuries-old curse. William inherited Hawthorne Manor, his strong, unmarked body a testament to his father's sacrifice. Yet those who visited the estate claimed they felt a presence behind his eyes, a weight too ancient, too dark for any child to bear. Sometimes in the moonlight, the mirror in the nursery would reflect not William's face, but the faint outline of someone else. Watching, waiting. The curse had survived as it always did, and Hawthorne Manor, with its ivy-clad walls and shadowed halls, would continue to whisper its dark secrets for generations to come. The Hawthorne curse endures, and William carries its shadow, Could the next generation break it, or is the manor forever bound to darkness? If you're captivated by Lady Eleanor's tragic tale, like, share and subscribe to follow more chilling stories from the shadows of history.